Okay, so here we go with 5.3. We're going to be using the concepts that we've already learned with factoring and canceling and bringing in the multiplication and division. So just a quick review, and this one's a fun one. I like this topic because we get to have fun erasing stuff and canceling stuff out. So just a quick review, multiplying fractions. Now there's two ways to do this. And the first way is not that hard, especially with these numbers, but it can get much harder as the numbers get bigger. So you have two choices. You can multiply and reduce, or reduce and multiply. I prefer the second option, but we'll talk about both. So the traditional way is just multiply straight across. 4 times 3 is 12, and 9 times 10 is 90. Top times top, bottom times bottom. And now we have to reduce. And we have to say, hey, what goes into 12 and 90? Now, most people will say, oh, well, 2, and that does work. And it'll take a little bit longer, but it works. Most people will recognize 3, hopefully. And maybe that's it. Maybe you don't recognize anything else. So let's divide by 3. And when we do that, we get 4, and we get 30. Which then we realize that, hey, they're both even. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. Not again, but this time. And I'm going to get 2 over 15. Final answer. Now, if you notice, I divide by 3, divide by 2, which means I could have, if I realized it, divided by the greatest common factor, the GCF, which is 6. 6 times 2, 6 times 15. But, you know, 6 times 2 is easy, but you may not recognize that 6 goes into 90. But with a calculator, if you think, hey, 6 goes into 12, let me try it, do 90 divided by 6, you could have gotten there in one fell swoop. But here's the other option. You always have the option to cancel any number on top with any number on the bottom. Because if you think about it, when we multiply, 4 times 3 is 12, so is 3 times 4. 9 times 10 is 90, so is 10 times 9. So I'm going to go to another piece of paper real quickly. 4, 3, 9, 10. And just think about this. Since 4 times 3 is the same as 3 times 4, and 9 times 10 is the same as 10 times 9, I could rewrite this so. Now, you can't go around just changing fractions, but for the purpose of where we're going, here we go. So 3/9, you can obviously tell 3 goes into both of those, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 3/9 reduces to 1/3. And if we look at the fraction 4/10, we know that 2 goes into both of them, 2 times and 5 times. And now when we multiply, we get 2 and 15. Look familiar? It should. So here's the idea. You don't have to rewrite the fractions to be able to cancel. Any number can cancel with any number top to bottom. So this 4 does not have to be on top of the 10. I can just cancel both of these by 2, divide, and say, well, that's 2, and that's 5. And I can cancel the 3 and the 9 by 3, divide by 3, 1, divide by 3, 3. And now when I multiply, 2 times 1, 2, 3 times 5, 15. Now, once again, canceling 12 over 90, reducing that is not that big of a deal. But when the numbers get bigger, faster, it does become a big deal. So it's always, in my opinion, easier to reduce before you multiply. On to the next one, 3/8 divided by 1/6. Remember, we cannot divide by a fraction. We multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal. Which means flip. Yeah, it's big. So we rewrite this as 3/8 times, I don't know why I put that dot there, 3/8 times 6 over 1. And now, once again, I could do 6 times 3 and 8 times 1 and reduce. Or, the 6 and the 8 will reduce by 2. 3 and 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. My answer is 9/4. If I would have done it the other way, I would have gotten 18 over 8. divided by 2, top and bottom, and got 9/4. Okay. So here's just a summary of that idea. Multiplying rational expressions, top times top, bottom times bottom. And dividing rational expressions, change the division times, and flip the C and the D. Flip the numerator and denominator. Okay? So, moving on. A rational expression is in the simplest form where the numerator and denominator have no common factors. So be sure to simplify completely. We want to factor and cancel first. So that idea that I was suggesting, you pretty much have to do it here. So, like I said, you could multiply this and get 96x cubed over 8x cubed. Okay, because remember, this is a 1. So you end up with that. And then you would cancel the x's. Anything divided by itself is 1. And 8 goes into 96 12 times. And there's your answer, 12. But you could also, remember, cancel first. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can cancel the 4 and 16 or the 4 and 6 because everything's even. So just have some fun with it. 2 goes into 16 8 times. And that's a 1 right there. 4 goes into itself once and 8 twice. 6 times 2 is 12. I look at my x's. I have 3 on the top, x cubed. And on the bottom, I have x to the 1, x to the 2, which is x to the 3, which is going to cancel, leaving me just 12. Now, here's where we got to do our factoring thing. Either factor, guess and check, or just get greedy and pull out the GCF. So, first off, x squared minus 3x. What can we pull out? Just an x, and get x minus 3. Now, here's a hint. When you're doing these sheets, probably somewhere on the bottom, left or right, you're going to get an x minus 3. X squared minus 25 is the difference of 2 squares. So that's going to end up being x plus 5, x minus 5. Times. I bet you one of these is going to be x plus 5 or x minus 5. And it is. It's x plus 5 times x minus 1. That will give me the negative 5. And then 5x minus 1x is positive 4x. And the bottom here, I'm going to get x minus 3. Look, I'm psychic. And x minus 1. Now I get to have fun canceling. I have an x plus 5 and an x plus 5. Anything divided by itself is 1. I have an x minus 3 and an x minus 3, top and bottom. Cancel. X minus 1 is literally over itself. What does that leave me? It leaves me an x on top and an x minus 5 on the bottom. And remember, no, you cannot cancel these x's. That is a big no-no. You cannot cancel inside that protective shell or cross addition subtraction. Okay, next one. Just going to have some fun writing this out and canceling. And a little factoring to boot. Okay, m minus 3 squared really means m minus 3 times m minus 3. So I'm going to write it out so I remember that there's 2 of them. On the bottom, m squared minus 6m plus 9. Guess what? It is literally m minus 3, m minus 3. So that whole left fraction is really just 1. This whole thing right here is equal to 1. So what does that leave us on the right side? We're going to pull an m out and give us m squared minus 9, which hopefully you recognize is a perfect square. I mean, difference 2 squares, which would factor to m plus 3, m minus 3. But wait! If we look ahead and see there's an m squared minus 9 right here, guess what? We don't have to factor them and then cancel. We can cancel right now. And after all that mess, what's left? Just m on top. Finished. Okay, on the left side we have 3n minus 1. What do you think is going to be right here, one of the factors? Let's see. N. Here we have n to the 4th. This factors to, you guess it, 3n minus 1 times n plus 3. 3n minus 1's cancel. Where do you have more n's? On the top. How many more? 3 more. And on the bottom, what's left? N plus 3. And remember, no, you cannot cancel one of the n's on top with an n on the bottom. That's your answer. Divide. Well, remember, divide is just multiply. So we're going to rewrite this as 6xy to the 4th over 25z cubed times 5y over 18xz squared. Now, if you want to do 6 times 5 is 30, that's great. But then you got to do 25 times 18, which is a big number, and that's just nasty. So I'm going to cancel. Why? Because this 6 goes into itself once and that 3 times. And this 5 goes into itself once and that 25 5 times. So what am I left with number-wise? 1 over 15. Now I look at my letters. Now, you may need to clean this up first, off to the side, like, on top, what do we have left? We have an x, and we have y to the 5th. And in the bottom, we have an x and z to the 5th. And see that the x's cancel. Or if you can go right here, either way, whatever works for you. But there's our answer. 1y to the 5th, or just y to the 5th, over 15z to the 5th. Okay, 16x squared minus 8x plus 1. I'm going to factor that and get 4x minus 1, 4x minus 1, also known as 4x minus 1 squared, over 14x squared. I'm going to immediately go to multiplication and put the 7x to the 5th up here and factor the bottom. I'll bet you one of these is 4x minus 1, and it is times x plus 2. So now the fun begins. Cancel one of these with one of those. 7 goes into itself once, into 14 twice. I have x to the 2, x to the 5, leaving me x cubed. What do I have on top left? I have x cubed times 4x minus 1. And at the bottom, I have 2 times x plus 2, and nothing else can cancel. I have multiplied and simplified. Okay, 2m minus 1, just going to stay. On the bottom, I get m plus 5, m minus 2. Change to multiplication. 4m plus 8 goes on the top. I'm going to factor out a 4 and get m plus 2. Sorry, I just realized this sheet is a little bit different than what you have. What you have is 2 minus m right here. So that is going to move up to the top as 2 minus m. And at the bottom, 2m plus 1, 2m minus 1. Difference 2 squares. Now, 2m minus 1 will cancel with the 2m minus 1. And notice, this 2 minus m is close to this m minus 2, but not exactly. So I can do what we talked about the other day and pull out a negative 1 and make this m minus 2. Which then I can now cancel, which leaves me on top, negative 1 over m plus 5 times 2m plus 1. And now, what's missing from this sheet, which is on your sheet, is number 8. Which is 2x squared plus 3x over 2x cubed minus 4x squared divided by 2x squared plus x minus 3. So, moving on. Division problem. Got to change the multiplication. This is really over 1, so it's going to move to the bottom. So on the top, on the left, only thing I can pull out is an x. gives me 2x plus 3. On the bottom, I can pull out the 2x squared and get x minus 2. Change it to multiplication. 1 goes on top. I factor this to 2x plus 3 times x minus 1. The 2x plus 3's will cancel. Over here on the left, x to the 1 can cancel with one of these. So all I'm left with on top is 1 over 2x times x minus 2 times x minus 1. And that's it.